talk about ingredients, and these are the 6 basic ingredients for bread making. You could open just about any cookbook for an American style recipe for bread. And we're not talking artisan bread or French bread, but American style recipes have these 6 ingredients in them in one form or another. So we'll start with the liquids, and most recipes will call for water. It may call for water and milk, maybe even water and juice, but most often it's going to be water. Next, you will want some type of fat in your bread. It could be oil, it could be melted butter, it could be shortening, but some type of fat. And what the fat does in the bread is it lubricates the gluten, and it also gives flavor, and it gives some browning to the crust as well. So you can make fat-free bread. If you prefer to leave out the oil, you can do that. But most bread recipes do call for some type of fat. Next, of course, you will need some flour. Now, we talked about the different types of grains and how there are base flours and blending flours. And in the bread recipe I'm going to show you how to make, I use hard white wheat flour for my base flour, and I'm going to add a blending flour. In this case, it is rolled oats. Now, you could use any type of oats that are rolled oats, quick oats. I like to use the old-fashioned or regular rolled oats. You could also use oat flour, and that would be taking the whole oat groat, and putting that through your grain mill and making flour. You would not want to put rolled oats into a grain mill because that will clog them up. However, you could take rolled oats and put that into a blender and pulse it into more of a flour. But you can add them in whole, and it works just as well. Next, you'll want some type of sugar or sweetener. Now, I do use sugar in my bread most of the time just because of the cost. I use an organic sugar. It used to be called more commonly evaporated cane juice crystals, but I notice now that they seem to be putting just organic sugar on their labels. I think it sounds a little more familiar to most people. And this is a less refined sugar than regular table sugar. It's a little bit beige or cream colored. I'll show you a close-up of it in just a minute. But you can use either sugar or honey in your bread. Now, I like my honey to be local, raw, organic honey, and it's very expensive. I usually buy it in a gallon, and then I put it into smaller containers and freeze it to make it last longer. And I would prefer myself, because of the cost and because I'm using really good honey, I would prefer to put that on my baked bread a little bit as a topping, and we also use it on our pancakes and things, instead of putting 2/3 to 1 cup of it in my bread recipe, just because of cost and because honey does have a lot of nutrients in it that sometimes can be destroyed by cooking them or baking them. So I'm going to use sugar. Now, if organic sugar sounds just a little bit too exotic for you, we're going to talk about another type of salt in a moment also. If that sounds like, oh no, I have to buy all these special kinds of ingredients, please don't worry and just use your regular white table sugar, whatever you've got at home and you're used to using. I want you to remember the good, better, best, and it's always good to start with the things that are familiar with you. And as you learn more and get more experience, you can, of course, substitute your ingredients into better forms later on. So regular table sugar, organic sugar, regular honey or raw honey, whatever you prefer is fine, it's going to work. But the sweetener also gives flavor, it gives food for the yeast, and it also aids in the browning of the crust. So that's a nice thing to have in your bread. Next, we'll talk about salt, and you can use regular table salt if that's what you have in your pantry already, or you can go with a sea salt, and I like to use a particular type of salt called real salt, and that is its brand name. It's called real salt, and it's kind of pink. It almost kind of looks like pink sand. It's got lots of little flecks, and you can go online and read some more about that. I'll give you a link to their website if you would like to use more of a less refined salt, and more natural salt. Otherwise, regular salt will be fine. Salt, once again, adds flavor to the bread, and it also has another important job, and that is that it regulates the yeast. Now, I'm going to go into more detail on yeast in just a moment, but the salt acts as sort of a retardant to the yeast. The yeast would just absolutely blow out of control if it were allowed to do so. It would rise too high if it weren't for the tempering action of the salt. So salt and yeast kind of work hand in hand with each other in your bread recipe. And then lastly, of course, you do need yeast. Now this is a 1 pound bulk package of yeast. You're probably used to seeing it in smaller packages. This is instant yeast, and this is what I use to help me make the bread quickly, and it allows you to let the bread rise only 1 time instead of 2. And it also means that you don't have to soak the yeast and add it to the bread recipe separately. You can just pour it right on top. So instant yeast, quick yeast, rapid rise yeast, one of those types of fast acting yeasts are what I recommend for the style of bread that we're making. Here are the samples of the salt and sugar that I was talking about. This is regular table salt in the middle so that you can compare the color of the other two. Table sugar, of course, looks about the same as table salt does. This is the evaporated cane juice crystals. That's what the ECJ stands for. And they seem to be changing the labels now to organic sugar. But Florida Crystals is a brand that I have seen most often in the larger grocery stores in the baking aisle, and I've even seen it at Walmart. So you might be able to find it there. It is a lot more expensive when you buy it that way, but if you just wanted to try it, that would be a good place, an easy place to find it. You would use organic sugar exactly in the same measurements, the same amounts as you would use table sugar. It's a 1-for-1 replacement. And I buy mine in a 50-pound bag because it's much less expensive per pound that way, and I store it in a 6-gallon bucket, the same as I store my wheat. And that lasts me probably the better part of a year. I've never really dated it and noticed how long it lasts, but it lasts a very long time. This is the real salt, and again, that's the brand name for it. It is a salt that is mined in America, in Utah or Nevada, I believe. You can go to their website and look at some more information on that if you would like. One of the advantages of using real salt is that it hasn't been bleached and it hasn't had any anti-caking agents added to it, such as the other salts have, so that they don't clump together. It has more minerals in it and more nutrients in it than regular salt. But once again, use whatever is easily available to you, what you're familiar with. These options are a little more expensive, and so you'll want to take that into consideration. But using these ingredients or using the ones that you're more familiar with will not have a big impact on the taste of your bread. It might just be a little bit more natural option this way.